KTS, new syndrome on the block.
Keto Transition Syndrome.
There's a bunch of symptoms around it, and a lot of people who are tuning in would be experiencing or understand those symptoms. They've seen either some of them or all of them. We're not comparing against others, so it's not about what everyone else is going through, it's what I'm going through. And then there's a really good bunch of practical steps there. You know I love acronyms.
You do, Mike. You have one for everything.
I do.
TLAs, 3-letter acronyms. Mike's 3-letter acronyms.
So Mike, in his wisdom, because I'm a very wisdom-orientated guy, I've come up with a new acronym that I'd like to talk about it. KTS.
Oh, the old Keto Transition Syndrome.
It's my acronym. You can explain it.
You can have KTS.
We have
Alcoholic Transition Syndrome.
And the reason why I think it's really important that I invented this syndrome, and I'm going to call it KTS, and we're going to use it forever and ever, the day we die, because there are thousands and thousands of people out there, and I'm talking large numbers, who go into keto, and usually in that first 30 days or 4 to 6 weeks period, they suffer a whole bunch of syndromes or symptoms that occur when they're transitioning into keto. And they get very frustrated and they have all sorts of issues with it, and they reach out for help. So what I want to do is package all that and call that KTS, so Keto Transition Syndrome, which is a bunch of things that occur in those initial stages when someone goes from a non-keto to a keto. And we're going to walk through today. I'm going to pick your brains.
All right.
Why do these things occur? What are some of those symptoms that occur in the first 30 days? Why do they occur? And more importantly, what can we do to either understand them or at least minimise those occurrences?
All right.
KTS, away we go. We have a syndrome.
We do.
We're ready.
Do you?
I have no syndromes. I'm syndrome free. I've done my KTS. I loved every minute of those 30 days. Go on. So what are some of the symptoms of KTS?
So I guess, when we talk to people and, a lot of the Facebook comments and questions that we get, and across all the platforms, whether it's Quora or LinkedIn or wherever it is, Twitter and Instagram.
Reach out.
Everybody's saying the same thing. There are a lot of people out there. There are many people, sorry, I've got to say this first. There are many people who start on a ketogenic diet, keto lifestyle, keto way of eating, and they adapt like that.
The lucky ones.
The lucky ones.
The lucky ones have no symptoms, they have no issues, they start burning fat straight away, they start getting results, they feel tremendous, keto flu never happens.
That's it.
Oh, we love those people.
And there are lots of people out there like that who do. They just transition really easily, smoothly.
Yes.
They start dropping weight, they make the decision to go keto, bam, they understand what they're going to eat, they understand how to do it. They get into ketosis really quickly.
Yes.
They adapt, their fat-adapted bodies just start loving this new diet. It's like it was always meant to be.
Yes.
And they drop weight, they feel amazing, they have bags of energy. And let me just talk about the reason why some people adapt really quickly.
Go for it.
It's simply their bodies are perhaps closer to our ancestral bodies, which were essentially fat-adapted and keto bodies.
Yes.
Or maybe their diet has been already closer to a keto diet. Maybe they've not done a lot of carbs.
Yes.
Maybe they've been eating a whole foods diet. Or their body just likes running on fat. It simply does.
Yep.
So there are lots of people out there who have amazing success. And many of our commenters and people question...
Not those people.
But also they've got a friend who's done it.
Absolutely.
So I could be commenters, hey Lynn, help me out because this is not working for me. But Mike...
Yes, that's very true.
Took to it like a duck to water.
Yes.
Why isn't it working for me? So, and I think what people tend to see, a lot of people who don't adapt and transition easily, they're seeing, not weight loss, they're seeing weight gain.
Yes.
So, they're devastated because they're starting off, potentially grossly overweight, got lots to lose. They've come across the keto lifestyle as being, honestly, one of the most effective diets for weight loss. And they've decided to jump on it, and they see the scales go up.
Yes.
That is devastating for some people.
So KTS symptom number 1
Weight
is
gain.
weight gain. Yeah, that happens to a lot of people in that initial period. And what happens when I'm just starting keto and I get a bit of weight gain? How do I feel?
Yeah, look, if that's you, if you're really overweight, you've set yourself a goal, you've motivated yourself, you've done all the prep, you've got yourself ready.
It's a big thing, a big psychological change, isn't it?
Huge mental change.
New food, new change, you're telling all your friends and family, and off you go. and the scales say you've gone up.
That's it. I mean, how would you feel?
I would feel devastated.
Yeah, you would. You'd feel devastated. You might feel anxious, depressed, even.
Yeah, stress. The stress
Very
because you put a lot of effort into keto because you've got to cook and create. You've got to think and meal plan, and there's a lot of effort and energy and stress goes into being keto or transitioning.
At least initially.
At least initially.
Yeah.
And then that change is quite stressful for anybody, and then not getting the results that you would had expected is just a slap in the face.
It's a real slap in the face. So I think that one of the biggest things is weight gain. It hasn't in your own feeling, it hasn't worked or it isn't working. So that's the biggest one. But probably the next one that's kind of linked is weight fluctuations.
Okay.
Right, people are jumping the ups and downs. They're jumping on the scales every day, and they're seeing the scale go up or down or up or down. They're not really seeing the constant downward trend that other people are seeing.
Yes.
And again, they can't understand. Well, they're looking at what did I eat yesterday? Well, it was the same as the day before. Yesterday I lost weight, but today I've gained it.
Yep.
So what's that? What's those big swings? In the scales, and that again it's a real frustration because people don't know what to do to get it right.
Yep.
Yeah. So if I'm not getting the same, the same reading on the scales every day, or it's not going downwards, and it's
not consistent.
Fluctuation. How do I even work out what to eat? How do I do this?
So number one, weight gain. Number two, weight fluctuations up and down. KTS symptoms. Number three.
Number three. Many people find they lose weight initially.
Right.
So quite often people lose 2, 3, 4 pounds, 1 to 2 kilos, and they get to perhaps day 4 or 5 and it stops.
The plateau.
The plateau. Now that plateau can happen right at the beginning.
Okay.
So they get an initial couple of days of success.
Yes.
And then it stops. So they think, woohoo, they celebrate their success, and then it all stops. Or the other time for the plateau to occur is actually any time in the weight loss journey. If somebody's trying to lose weight, they're doing keto for weight loss.
Yes.
They might have lost weight for 30 days, and then all of a sudden things just plateau. They stop losing weight. Doesn't matter what they do, doesn't matter if they restrict their calories, they fast, just doesn't work. It doesn't make the scale shift.
Okay.
So that's really the third thing that we see.
All right, KTS 1, 2, 3, number 4.
Number 4 is that people are going in and out of ketosis.
Yes.
So not everybody measures their ketones, but we recommend it because if you want to see where you're at, then quick finger prick or pee on a stick,
you measure it,
and you've got an indicator. And what people see is that some days they're in ketosis, and other days they're not in ketosis. And there may be lots of variables, and I'll talk about that in a second. But they're seeing that constant in and outs. They're not getting into, and they're not staying in ketosis for long periods of time.
Okay, and the last one, which is equally as important, we see a lot is around fatigue, isn't it?
It is. So some people go on to the this way of eating because they want to lose weight. Other people are doing it more for health and wellness benefits, and especially to get more energy. Because what we know is when somebody gets it right, energy levels go up dramatically. Now, some people are getting onto this way of eating, and they're finding their energy goes the opposite direction.
Yes.
They're getting fatigued, they're getting tired, maybe headaches, they're not feeling that good, a bit of foggy thinking. And again, everybody around them saying, "Wow, I feel amazing on keto," and then they're saying, "Well, I don't. I feel terrible. I feel really tired and no energy." So that's quite a big one for a lot of people.
So we define the problem: KTS, Keto Transition Syndrome. The symptoms are weight gain, weight plateauing, weight fluctuations, in and out of ketosis, and fatigue.
Yes.
And that primarily, a lot of those occur in the initial stages, but can occur at any time.
Yeah.
But that's when we're seeing a lot of people crying out and saying, "Look, help! I went on this journey for these reasons, and I'm not getting the results." There's a bunch of practical things around what you should and shouldn't do in the first 30 days to not be too stressed about those symptoms. And then there's obviously the reasons why they occur. Where do you want to go first?
Well, first thing is, let me just talk about it like this. We're talking about a way of eating. We're talking about keto foods. We're talking about a lifestyle.
Yes.
But everybody is different, right? So I really want everybody just to stop and think for a second. Think about yourself. Think about your 5 closest friends. Are you identical to them?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Are you identical to your family members?
No.
No, and there are lots of basic differences. We've got gender differences, we've got height differences, we've got weight differences. We've also got different ancestral histories, we come from different places. We've got a different background in the way that we eat. We've got different levels of exercise. Some of us will be super busy all day running around after the kids, and other people will have a sedentary office job.
Yes.
But we're all different. Now, if I lined you and your 5 closest friends up at a start line and said run 100 metres or run a mile, would you all run it in exactly the same time?
Absolutely not.
You wouldn't.
The kids would beat me.
It's probably true. Little whippets.
Yeah.
But people go on to be this way of eating. They
Yes.
start keto and they assume that everybody's the same,
Yep.
and that what worked for their
Best
5 friends
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
will work for them.
Yes. Or what worked for their husband or their wife or their
That's
partner
right.
will be the same. Yeah,
That's
there's a
right.
frustration there, isn't there?
There's a real frustration. So it doesn't work like that. Every single person is unique, they're individual, they're different. Everybody's going to have different caloric needs. Everybody needs a different amount of fat. Everybody's got a different weight loss goal. Everybody's got a different starting point with their energy level.
Yes.
Some people will be on medications.
Of course.
Some people will have health issues.
Yes.
They may have diseases or significant health challenges. People will have different levels of movement during the day. Different ages, different genders. So there's all of those factors. Every single person is different. That means every person will adapt to the keto way of life differently. So if you're in that, if you've got this syndrome and you're looking around at the people around you who've had success, stop.
Yep.
Only look at yourself, don't compare, because that whole comparison thing is putting stress on you to perform in the same way that they perform. You wouldn't run 100 metres in the same time, so why do you expect to eat the same way and get the same result? You won't.
Yep.
So I think that's really, really important for people to understand.
Good.
That it's not the same for everybody.
So anybody tuning into this episode is probably nodding because they're saying, yes, I've got anxiety, frustration, possible depression, I've got stress, because I'm in that initial period and I've got one of those symptoms that I didn't expect, and I'm frustrated that I'm not getting the results that I want. So let's clear it up. Why are we getting these symptoms when keto is supposed to be the best thing since sliced bread? But in those early stages, I'm getting some symptoms that I don't like the weight gain or the plateauing or the ketosis up and down or the fatigue. So run us through the why it happens.
Yeah, so there's quite a lot of reasons, and not everything will apply to everyone. But the first thing is you're essentially changing the fuel source for your body really radically.
Right.
So I often give this example. I think about a car, and I think about a car that runs on one type of fuel, let's say petrol. And I've gone to a location where they've got electricity as fuel for cars, and I want to convert my car from being a petrol engine car to being maybe a hybrid, or even just purely running on electricity. It's not going to easily change, is it?
No, everything has to change, the whole workings.
You have to change the engine. Now, luckily we don't have to throw our stomach away.
Good news.
But we do have to teach our body to run on a completely different fuel source.
So the traditional fuel source is?
Our traditional fuel source for most people eating a standard Western, standard American, standard Australian, standard European diet is carbohydrates.
Okay, which convert into
glucose in the body, gets stored in the muscles and in the liver, and get used as a very short-term, quick burst of energy. So glucose from carbohydrates is what most people are using as their fuel source, and that's a very dirty fuel. So it really is. It's like the old style of oil that you might put in a big heater.
Sludge at the bottom.
It burns dirty.
So most people then going into keto, the majority of people will be coming from one of those traditional diets. So their whole body is operating on a glucose-driven fuel source.
That's right.
And then we've said, right, we're now going to change your primary fuel source over to a new fuel source, which is cleaner, better, more effective,
That's it.
But there's going to be some changes.
That's it.
Beautiful. And what are we going to?
So we're going to go to ketones.
Right.
And ketones are basically produced in the body in a few situations. First of all, when we feed the body fat, in the absence of carbohydrates. So no carbohydrates, and we eat fat, the body will produce ketones from the fat. Second, still no carbohydrates, the body will produce ketones from its own fat supplies. It will literally eat itself. Great if you want to get rid of that belly fat. And the third occasion is when we're fasting.
Okay.
So when we're fasting, we're eating fat or we're using our own fat and we're not having any carbohydrates, the body will produce ketones.
Right.
They're a beautiful, pure, clean fuel, and they're actually the body's preferred source of fuel.
And where does the body produce them?
The body produces ketones in the liver.
Right.
So there's different mechanisms depending on whether we're eating fat or whether we're using our own fat. So, but let's not get technical on that.
So if I wasn't...
You don't really need to know that.
You're in the body somewhere. So
Produced in the body.
if I'm on the traditional diet, which is a non-ketogenic diet, does my body not use any ketones for fuel? It uses primarily glucose because that's its primary source, isn't it?
So what will happen in the body is the body will go for the easiest fuel source.
Which is glucose.
And glucose is a super easy fuel source.
Yeah.
Think about your fire.
Yes.
Right, you want to start a fire, you've got some wood, and you've got some kindling, that stuff that burns really easily.
Yep, the little sticks.
The little sticks, those
Yes.
little sort of dry, twiggy things, or
Yes.
even the fire lighters. And think about you've got a bit of you've got your fire started, and you put some kindling on it. What happens?
It burns.
It burns, and does it burn for long?
No, it just burns, it flares up and burns, and then it dies out.
That's it. So just think about your carbohydrates and your glucose are basically like the kindling, right? The fire will go for them straight away because they burn easy.
Yes.
Right, so glucose burns easy.
Big burst of energy.
Big burst of energy, and then
It dies.
it's gone.
The old logs at the bottom.
That's it. So if you're going to keep a fire going for longer, what do?
You put the logs on, or the coal, you put something that burns slower and longer.
That's it. And the ketones are like the logs or the coal. They're the things that will keep going for a long time, sustained energy over a long period. So if your body is faced with a choice of the kindling, the glucose, and the logs, which is the ketones, it's going to grab the kindling first because it's super easy to burn.
Makes sense?
So if you give it both,
Yep.
it'll always burn the glucose in preference. So that's why we're eliminating the carbohydrates. Otherwise, you won't get into ketosis.
Okay.
So if you're struggling to get into ketosis, then just have a look again at carbohydrates.
Okay. So we're changing the body's source, and it's a big change from glucose to ketones, and that's in the initial periods when we're transitioning, and that process is a huge change for the body. So we're going to get some symptoms. We can't expect to change the whole fuel mechanism and not get some symptoms.
Exactly right. So think about this. First of all, your gut has to adapt. Your stomach. Think about the microbiome, or let's talk about it just, the stuff that's in your tummy and your intestines. All the bugs that feed off what you put inside, basically they've got to change because you're taking away what they love. They love glucose.
They do, don't they?
And there's lots of bad bacteria in our stomachs that absolutely adore glucose. They're the ones that cause bloating, the ones that cause the pains in the tummy, the wind. They're often the ones that cause things like small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, SIBO, and they cause all manner of gut problems. They cause autoimmune conditions, and we know now that they cause brain issues, fogginess, all sorts of things. So all of those bugs that are sitting in your stomach, merrily eating the glucose, you've just taken their food supply away.
They're not happy.
They're not happy.
Grumpy bug. Nothing worse than a grumpy bug.
They are not happy bugs. And they can't live on ketones.
Okay.
Right? So they have got to go, and we've got to get some new bugs in. Now those new bugs are going to take a bit of time to get established. Just think of them moving into your stomach, just like moving into a new house.
Yes.
It takes a bit of time to work
They're
out
nicer
the
bugs.
furniture. Much nicer bugs. It takes a while to work out where your
Feng
furniture is
shui.
going, your feng shui, all that stuff. So these bugs have got to take up residence, they've got to multiply, and they've got to get used to your new fuel source. So all of a sudden, this is all happening without you knowing about it. You're not conscious of it. You don't have to think to control it, but you've got to let it happen.
And your body will respond.
Your body will respond. Now, in some people, that will happen in days. In other people, that could take months, especially if you've suffered a lot of gut damage.
Of course.
You may not know you've got it, but you could well, especially if you've had constipation, diarrhea, irritable bowel syndrome, Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, and I could go on and on. But all of these conditions will have damaged the gut. If you've been a wheat eater, you will have damaged your gut. So lots of things that you've been eating will have damaged the gut, and that's got to repair itself. Now that again could take 5 days, it could take 100 days.
But it's going to take time.
But it's going to take time. So you're going to do this big shift in fuel source. You're going to change all the bacteria in your gut, and you've got to heal your gut. Now think about if you've got a wound on your body. So I've got a cut on my leg right now. Sorry, put my foot in your face. I've got a cut on my leg right now.
Yes.
And I just knocked that on the end of the bed the other day. And that's, I can see a bit of inflammation. It's probably going to take about 7 days to heal.
Yes.
In my stomach, the healing takes longer.
Yep.
Everything's, moist.
Yes.
So it will take not just 7 days, it will often take months for the gut to heal fully. You'll see progression, but it can take months and months.
So we have to cut ourselves some slack. We have to be gentle. We have to understand that the transition from the old fuel to the new fuel will cause changes. Everyone's going to be different, and the symptoms of those changes are going to be different in each person, but we need to expect it, be aware of it, and not get stressed by those occurring. But there is some practical stuff we can do in that first transition period that is going to possibly minimise, or at least make sure that a lot of those symptoms are transition symptoms rather than mistakes we might be making in the transition process. True?
Yeah, that's right. So when people are first transitioning into keto,
yes.
And we have a process that you can follow, and we'll talk about that another day, I think. But when you're transitioning in, make sure that you are having lots of fat. Because fat is really the thing that's going to help you.
Yes.
Make sure you've got rid of all the carbohydrates and the sugary sodas and all those things.
Yeah.
And as you go through those first few weeks, again, just try and relax through it, because if you get stressed,
Yes.
you're going to really force your body to struggle with this change.
Yes.
So relax, your body will change.
Yep.
You will at some point become fat adapted, but allow your body to go through that process. And like I said, support it with lots and lots of fat during that initial period.
And the good fat too.
The good fat.
Yes.
And in fact, eat more than you need to.
Yes.
Now that might cause the scale to go up, but don't panic. Because once you've got fat adapted, the weight will just literally shed off you.
Yeah.
So don't fear the fat. And again, many people who are doing this for weight loss, when they're overweight, they fear the fat. So they actually hold back on the fact they think they're doing keto, but they're holding back because they're scared. Because to them, fat is calories, and calories means weight gain.
Yes, so it just doesn't work in their head.
It doesn't work in their head, and they get really scared about it. So again, really do understand how difficult it is to put a lot of fat on your food and in your body.
So practical steps, then this isn't a transition process, so when you start, we all know the amounts, the percentages, but it's making sure you get the right quantity of fat, good fats, not too much protein, hydration.
Yeah, so just hold that thought a second. I just want to go through a few more of
Sorry, Jen was excited.
You've jumped on.
I've invented a syndrome, and I like that. So I feel like I'm the inventor. I do. I want a Nobel Peace Prize for the KTS.
You may not get that, but let's move on. Look, I think as well as the fact that you're making this big switch, there are things that people do that can actually force them to gain weight or see the fluctuations or not get into ketosis. So one of them is actually they're eating too many calories.
Oh, okay. Yes.
So I just talked about eating too much fat.
Yes.
People actually go the other way and they eat far too much.
Right.
So they've taken their typical meal,
yes.
They've removed the carbohydrates,
doubled it,
and they've put in fat. Right? Now, just think about it like this. Carbohydrates and fat don't have the same calories per ounce.
Yes. So if I a cupful of carb and a cupful of fat,
they are
very
eating
different.
Very different amounts.
Okay.
In fact, more than double the calories.
Right.
So this much of my carbohydrate and this much of my fat is not equal. So if you've taken your typical portion and you've put lots and lots of fat in instead of those empty empty carbohydrate calories, then what you've done is you've increased your calorie count massively.
Yeah.
So a lot of people just don't realise. So get to know your macros and actually measure. Initially, if you don't really know what these calorie counts are, measure them so you get it right. Because you could just be going well over on your calories.
And there's so much effort goes in those initial stages. A lot of people put so much effort in, it's good to get it right. So take the time to measure, get the right amounts, because then you're doing everything possible to minimise KTS and get the results that you deserve.
And you won't always have to measure, because pretty quickly you'll be able to eyeball a serve of meat
Doesn't take long.
the amount of fat you've got to put in, and you'll get that right.
Yes.
But initially, learn those quantities.
Well, you are learning something new. You're learning a new way of eating.
That's right.
It is a change. So when you do learn, you do measure, you check, you make sure it's right.
Yeah. So we've got the fact that we're switching the fuel source, making sure you've got enough fat, making sure you're not having too much fat, and then one you mentioned a couple of seconds ago was too much protein. And again, that comes from not realising that keto is actually a moderate to low protein way of eating. And people think about protein, they think it's good, it's great for the muscles, it's great for the body, and it is, but you just don't need that much.
Yes.
So again, people are eating big steaks, lots of muscle meat. They're really loading their portions because they've taken away their breads and pastas.
Yes.
And again, they've replaced it with protein.
Yes.
That will stop your ketosis. If you have too much protein, then again, it's going to act almost like carbohydrates in the body, and it's going to throw you out. So that could be another reason why you're gaining weight or you're fluctuating.
Yes. I mentioned hydration.
You did. Hydration's a really important one because, again, what happens, and this is one of the reasons why people lose weight initially and then plateau, is that when you start with the keto lifestyle, you're actually, you've removed your carbohydrates, your body doesn't need, or it uses all of its glucose, and when your body stores glucose in the muscles as glycogen, it stores it as water.
Okay.
So when you've got no glucose or glycogen in the body, you don't need the water.
Yes.
So the body, and you don't need the insulin that's normally produced to deal with all of that glucose. So the body suddenly goes, hang on a second, don't need insulin drops, don't need all that water stored in the body, so it sends a message to the kidneys, you can get rid of all that water now, thanks very much. Don't need it.
Yep.
And you basically pee it out. So people see that weight loss because they've peed out the water in the body.
That water loss.
And then they don't see anything else.
Yes.
That's only water that they've lost. It's not true weight loss, it's not fat loss. But then the hydration part, you've lost all that water, so you need to replace it. So you need to drink plenty of the good water. You also need to make sure that you're replacing electrolytes.
Okay.
And the biggest one probably for most people is sodium, which comes from salt.
Pink Himalayan mountain salt.
Pink salt, don't use white salt. I always say white refined is bad, colourful is good. So pink Himalayan salt or grey sea salt.
Grey sea salt.
Put those into your water. I have it with a bit of warm water in the morning, and what it does is it replaces the electrolytes, the sodium, and it helps your potassium balance. They all get lost when you pee all that water out. So if your body's not hydrated, it's not a happy body, and you're not going to lose weight again.
So these are all things you can do to minimise the symptoms of KTS and make sure that the transition stays on track. And you're doing everything possible.
That's it. So if you're not losing weight, or you're seeing fluctuations, or you are fatigued,
these are things to check.
Fatigue often comes from lack of sodium or poor hydration. So if you're seeing one of these symptoms, go through this checklist and look to see if that's a mistake or a trap you've fallen into.
What about sleep during that transition period? How important is that?
Sleep's incredibly important. So sleep's really important for the body anyway.
Generally,
it restores itself. And we know that lots of sleep is good. But especially as you're adapting, a lot of those adaptations are going to occur overnight.
Right.
Because the body during that sleeping time is not having to focus on doing everything, and it can actually focus on sorting out your digestion, sorting out your gut bacteria, getting your stomach ready for the fats, transitioning your muscles to run on a different fuel source, sorting out what your brain runs on. So all of those processes occur at night.
Okay.
So get lots of sleep to allow your body to transition. And also if you're suffering initially a bit of keto flu, carb flu, you're feeling a bit tired, then that's your body's way of saying, hey, give me a break.
Give me some rest.
I'm making a big change here, guys.
And
so sleep more.
Yes.
Sleep more, hydrate and sleep. Hydration and sleep will help you get through that keto flu.
The birds agree with you.
The birds are going crazy. The birds are going wild.
They love my new syndrome. And probably the last one, which some people don't obviously see, is the impact of their medication on that transition.
Well, there's probably three hidden ones that people are not seeing. The first one, as you said, is medication.
Yes.
So you could be on medication, and your medication could actually affect the way that you're processing fats and whatever you're eating.
Yes.
So that could be affecting your transition. Now, if you are on medication, you probably want to work with your doctor, your GP, your health professional, just to see how it's going. Especially if you're on something like a type 2 diabetes medication. A lot of people transition onto keto and find that they can reduce their diabetes medications, but only do that under the supervision of your health professional.
Yes.
Don't do it yourself.
Absolutely.
Many people end up getting off their diabetes medication and reversing diabetes, which is truly amazing.
Absolutely.
But again, work with a medical professional. So medication could be one. Another one could be hidden carbs.
Okay.
You might have carbohydrates in sauces, dressings, marinades. They could be hidden in processed foods if you're doing dirty or lazy keto.
Yep.
So you might find there's sources of carbs that you just didn't realise.
Yes.
So really become a bit of a food detective. Interrogate the labels.
Let's hold the chorizo up to the light. Is that
That's
right?
it.
How many carbs are in this?
Well, you see, it's a great example. Chorizo has dextrose in it.
Absolutely.
That's the sugar. It's hidden. It doesn't look.
But it looks like meat
just a
and
piece of
fat, and it looks great.
That's it. So watch out for the hidden carbs. And then this one is an interesting one. Stress.
Ah, okay.
When you're stressed, there's lots of indicators that the body in its stressed state will hold on to any fat stores it's got.
Protection mode.
It's like a protection mode. It is literally protecting you, because stress in the past, for our ancestors, 100,000 years ago, came from being chased by a tiger.
Ah, of course.
So our bodies released adrenaline, and that stress meant that we could run for hours, we were fueled, but it would also hold on to the fats because we were living a stressful life, and we might go for days without getting food. So we'd hold on to that fat to protect us. Nowadays, our stress comes from just our daily lives, but when the body feels stress, it will do that protection mechanism. It will hold on to its fat, and it won't let it go. So it doesn't matter what you do, how you eat. You just may not lose weight if your body's not happy. Your hormones are not balanced, and you're not feeling good.
All makes sense, doesn't it? There's so many little factors there. If you are experiencing keto transition syndrome, which is all those different things, the weight up, the weight down, the plateau, the ketosis, then if you go through the checklist that you've just been through, you make sure you're doing everything possible. Last question for you. A lot of people ask when they should start the intermittent fasting. And I know there's some thoughts on not starting too early, because that can cause where are you sitting on, I've started keto, I'm doing the transition, when should I then start to think about fasting as the next step?
So it's a great question, Mike, and this deserves a whole episode on its own.
We'll do that.
We will do that.
Yes.
We will do that. But let me answer the question. Everybody wants to jump straight in and do it all straight away. If it's anybody like you, you're impatient.
Everything.
I want it all.
Now.
That's it. And so people are tempted to start on day one. This is a long game. This is a long game, and so I always recommend don't start intermittent fasting on day one, especially if you come from a carbohydrate background.
Yes.
And the reason is that when I've taken your carbohydrates away, you're going to feel hungry initially. And going for 60 carbohydrates is probably going to make you pretty damn hungry.
It's going to hurt.
You're not going to be a pleasant person to be around.
You're going to be yucky.
And so what you really want to do to get the most success from intermittent fasting, and look, some people prove me wrong on this. Some
They do
people
it
can
successfully straight away.
and they can do it easily.
Yes.
But a lot of people also are psychologically used to eating anywhere up to 20 times a day. So if you're used to eating 20 times a day, how hard is it going to be to go for 16 hours without food?
And on a new fuel source.
source.
It's going to be ridiculous.
So the easiest time to do intermittent fasting is when you've fat adapted. Because instead of having those big spikes and drops of energy that come from eating carbohydrates, you've got a really nice sustained fuel source that keeps you full.
The logs.
It keeps
the
you
logs in the fire.
That's it. So they keep you full.
Yes.
They keep you happy. They keep you sustained. They
Yes.
keep your brain going.
Yes.
And you can fast for 16 hours easily. So if you've become fat adapted, now, easy to say, how do you recognise it? Not everybody's going to know they're fat adapted.
Yep.
So I always say to people, try and wait for 30 days. Do the keto thing for 30 days.
Yeah.
Get used to the foods, get your body used to the foods. Start to get to the point where you're no longer hungry. And when you realise that you're not hungry for your next meal, just start to push your next meal back a bit.
Do some mini fasts.
Do some mini fasts. So the ideal one is you've had your dinner. If you'd normally eat your breakfast at 6 o'clock, push it till 7 o'clock. See how you feel. If that's easy, push it to 8 o'clock. 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11, 12 o'clock, all of a sudden, you've got yourself to 12 o'clock and you've got yourself a 16-hour fast. So don't dive in, get on keto first, get keto working for you, get some of the benefits, get part way towards being fat adapted, and then gradually reduce that intermittent fasting.
Excellent, so some great information there. KTS, new syndrome on the block.
Keto Transition Syndrome.
There's a bunch of symptoms around it, and a lot of people who are tuning in would be experiencing or understand those symptoms. They've seen either some of them or all of them. We're not comparing against others, so it's not about what everyone else is going through, it's what I'm going through. And then there's a really good bunch of practical steps there. And one of the last ones is get off the scales for me, because a lot of people do rely on their scales, and we know that if in the first 30 days we rely on how we feel and how we look, because I do say to a lot of people, if you looked great and you fitted all your clothes and you had huge amounts of energy, would the body weight actually matter? And the answer often is no, it doesn't matter, but we tend to rely on our scales as an indicator, so a little extra tip there.
Agreed. Get off the scales, it's a long game, give it a chance.
Because you deserve it.
You deserve it, you absolutely do.
Absolutely.